What if I told you that before the gangs of Cyberpunk 2077 that you all know and love, a group of artistic blood drinkers struggled with the atrocities committed by one of their very own members? Would you say, "What the hell are you talking about, little Australian man trapped in my pastel blue iPhone 15? Or would you say, "I'm intrigued, Mr. Jeroyce from YouTube. Please, go on." If you chose the latter, I'm going to tell you about a group of pranksters and event organisers that ended up being blamed for horrible crimes that took place in Night City. In Night City, you can expect to see a multitude of people kitted out in cybernetic implants. These range from slight cosmetics to all-out weapons and armour. So if you've played Cyberpunk 2077, you're probably rocking mantis blades, Sandever stands, or bionic joints. But in the tabletop games, there was another enhancement that unfortunately didn't make it into the video game. These implants were known as vampires, or vampires, and they're probably what you're thinking. Big old fangs that replace your pre-existing pearly whites with razor-sharp ones. Two options are available to anyone willing to visit the Ripper Dentist: a half set of canines or a full grill, nicknamed a Shark Grin Special. While only being considered a pretty basic upgrade available almost anywhere, you can throw even more money at shadier individuals to get them filled with toxins or poison, allowing you to not only take a decent chomp at your enemy, but also give them a little sickness when you've taken a step back. This little upgrade was a number one pick in a small community within Night City, a small community that ended up facing a big problem. Next time you're roaming around Japantown in the 2020s, be sure to stop by the Budokan Center and experience an amazing performance by the Nakagawa Kabuki troupe. You can, of course, watch any other form of performance from any other artist in the building, but the Nakagawa troupe's success really helped put this particular building on the map. Corpos came in flocks to see the fantastic shows put on by them. At the very top of the tower lays landing pads, fit for any air vehicles to deliver Night City's elite. If air travel isn't your style, drive your car underground and park it there for a few hours, but try to remain in the designated areas, and don't venture too far from the building's entrance. Rest assured, I only mean this as a gentle warning, as many citizens of the city have spread rumours about something a little bit peculiar operating below the Performing Arts Centre, something that often has Arasaka's security teams up in arms about. Deep within the belly of the Budokan resides a group of eccentric individuals and mischievous beings, hell-bent on riling up groups of people above their home and in the surrounding streets. The underground occupants are named the Philharmonic Vampyres, and this band of fanged gangsters spent their time playing pranks on Night City's general population. The pranks were harmless, only meant to annoy or embarrass the targets, and leave them cleaning up a particularly placed mess caused by the practical jokes. Nobody was safe from them either. Rich, poor, old, young, everyone was copping glitter bombs and water buckets. The vampires had a strange obsession with a particular group of individuals. If they spotted mute, striped shirt wearing street performers, they doubled down on their antics. I'm not completely sure why they had such a burning hatred for mimes, but this formed a heated rivalry with another gang of the city, named the Juilliard. Initially, the group's antics and escapades didn't hold them in too negative of a light in terms of their reputation. They were annoying, sure, but eventually the Philharmonic Vampyres' reputation evolved into a much more problematic collection of criminals, with the introduction of a new member. The year 2025 marked the end of the Fourth Corporate War. US soldiers finished clearing out Arasaka's remaining fighters, and eventually, Night City's Corpo Center was free of the nuclear fallout. If you venture a little bit west of the area, you will find thousands of students roaming the campus of Night City University. This educational facility allows opportunities for the less wealthy, non-Corpo citizens of the city. If you keep your ear to the crowd, you'll hear more and more students expressing their concerns. Some minor, like their psych professor ignoring his mail, or the vampire shows being weird and just glorified orgies. But many people are concerned about the increasing number of missing people in the area. All three of these topics are actually related. Psychology professor Huntver has been working at the university for a long time, becoming a very influential member of the school's faculty. This is the teacher whose students have been a little frustrated at his lack of communication recently. They spend their nights slaving away in their rooms to write the perfect thesis, only to receive no feedback from their professor. The reason for the teacher's poor replies stem from something increasingly sinister and evil, responsible for what the students and NCPD have been worrying about for weeks now: the people who have gone missing recently. Professor Huntver used his wealth and influence to fuel the flames of the Philharmonic Vampyres. He approached the Fang pranksters and poured his time, money, and energy into it, evolving the gang into something much more devilish than it used to be. Huntver gave them a new home. They vacated the empty space below Budokan Center and made their way to the university district and began spreading flyers and advertisements for their entertaining shows and parties, funded by the university teacher. As time went by, he started seeing himself not as a human, but as a genuine vampire. His thoughts twisted his mind over time and caused him to engage in vile acts, even by Night City's standards. These acts were so despicable that the vampires not only disapproved, but they completely exiled him from the group. This didn't faze the twisted teacher, because in his opinion, these were actors with implants. He was a true vampire. Professor Huntver began his gradual transformation into Lord Ruthven. His delusions of what he believed he was began to take the backseat of his wicked mind, while obsessions plagued his thoughts and corrupted his everyday actions. He was obsessed with one particular woman in Night City, a woman named Barbara Dahl, a news anchor for Network News 54. The motives of his kidnapping stemmed from this unhealthy obsession. Because he couldn't get his hands on the media member, he decided the next best thing was to turn another woman into her. He would use the vampires' parties and events to seek out anyone resembling Barbara and remove them from the area. Then, he would try to change their physical appearance in a surgical manner and sculpt them into his dream woman. Seeing as it happened time and time again, it's safe to say that his procedures were wildly unsuccessful. The women he tried to transform were never seen again. All except for one. A group of netrunners received a message from a representative of Rockland Augmentic's executive engineer, George Edward Reinmeyer. As you may know, my client's daughter went missing in the university district. We have had little cooperation from the local authorities. My client has authorized me to pay out 2,000 eddies per head to contractors of my choice, issued once Lucy Reinmeyer has been recovered, in whatever state you happen to find her. Happy hunting. Eager to earn eddies, the group prepared their weapons and tech to retrieve the missing girl on her father's behalf. Only there was a slight caveat. The message was not actually sent by a rep for George Reinmeyer. It was sent by a member of the Philharmonic Vampyres. The vampires didn't simply boot the psycho from the group and send him on his merry way. They actually set up a scheme to wipe him from the face of the earth. Regardless of who the message came from, the runners were ready to take out the cyber psycho and recover the victim by whatever means necessary. They approached a bus stop where a few students of the university were seen standing, surrounded by posters advertising the upcoming vampire party. The Philharmonic Vampyres are such a joke. The only reason people like them is because the audience usually ends up half naked, one student says, before adding, "And these kidnappings are serious. 7 women missing is nothing to dismiss. NCPD needs to do something." Another student disagrees. "This is going to be the event of the week. Those vamp shows are always so stylish. Missing women? Don't be such a downer." The overall opinions held by the group are split 50-50. Some are big fans of the events and what goes on during, but the other half are too concerned about the missing women and lack of police intervention to actually enjoy the parties. After making their way to the location of the party at Symphony Hall, the group sees the long line of partygoers waiting to enter the event. Campus security stays posted up in an AV and another 2 direct people inside. A pale man in a sleek black suit welcomes them as they enter. Come one, come all. You will see wonders that will astonish. One of his fancy gloves grips a silver bat head laid atop his long black cane. His eyes glowing as he scans through everyone's tickets. Enjoy the show, he says with a smirk that reveals bright white fangs. Long red curtains and drapes flow down the walls of the hall above 2 burlesque dancers. Please be seated. The show is about to begin, they exclaim. The group sits upon plastic-covered theatre seats as the show is set to start. Liters of fake blood get thrown back and forth by members of the performance as ballet music fills the air. The show proceeds for a few minutes before it's interrupted by someone yelling out backstage, "You two can't be here." The sentence is cut short by a harmony of gunshots. The audience shriek and scream as they scatter from their seats, but the group stays and fights. They ready their weapons and approach the stage, where the cause of the gunshots are seen standing up on it. A twisted smile hides behind a shotgun, and a man donning a brown robe points a rifle at the runners. The clown and the monk open fire on anyone in front of them as they intend on eliminating not only the rescue group, but also any vampire they see. A few vampire corpses hit the deck as the edge runners take cover on both sides of the hall. 2 runners hide behind pillars on the left, pinned down by the clown's barrage of bullets. The other 2 take cover on the right, dodging a volley of rounds fired from the monk. Gunfire is exchanged for a few minutes before the clown can be heard screaming out in pain, pausing the conflict on the left-hand side of the hall. Knowing that this is probably the best time to strike, one of the runners sprints in the clown's direction as they unsheath their sword. The monk continues firing at the other 2 members of the group before comical cackling echoes through the room. As the man dashes to execute the clown, he notices them roll over, with what appears to be a water balloon in their hand. The runner slows their sprint before realizing that the balloon rolling away from the downed jester is beeping and flashing, kind of like a grenade would. Everyone is covered with torn fragments of colourful clothes and painted with dark red blood. The runners shake off the clown's remains and go to continue firing on the monk, but he's nowhere to be seen. As they quickly duck behind cover and reload their weapons, the lights in the hall dim to the point of complete darkness, so one of the runners activates their low light vision and looks around for anything out of the ordinary. Shrouded silhouettes of vampires scurry around to retrieve their fallen friends and allies. The runner looks up to the balconies above and notices more silhouettes emerging, except these ones are not retrieving bodies. Red eyes glow through a seeping fog and a cloud of bats swoop down in the direction of the group, revealing a tall man donning a similar yet a much more fancy wardrobe than the other vamps behind him. "My production of Dracula is in shambles. Some of my children are dead. Leave, all of you. There will be no retaliation. Leave now before I change my mind." The group of runners respect the wishes of the grieving vampire and leave the venue, passing through a now empty street. The executive engineer, Mr. Reinmeyer, continues pushing through the grief and worry that plagues his mind due to the events occurring within his family. Local media and even investigators attempt to reach out for any thoughts relating to his daughter, but he refuses to comment. Unable to get anything out of the businessman, people begin turning to the NCPD to inquire about the kidnappings, but again are met with nothing. The local police couldn't really help with the missing women because they had their hands full with all of the other gangs terrorizing the city. Sound familiar? Bad guys, bigger fish, not enough pans. Adding to the list of growing problems caused by the psychotic Lord Ruthven, an instance of grave robbing popped up too. To be more specific, The grave of now missing woman Lucy's husband Kenneth was opened, and his head was seemingly detached from his body. This happened a few months before her disappearance, and she took it upon herself to find out why her late husband's body was desecrated. Seeing as her family was quite popular, her decision to investigate the affairs privately were most likely to keep it all out of the spotlight. But as you can probably tell, her investigation was interrupted when her whereabouts ceased to be known. Tensions continued rising between the Philharmonic Vampyres and their new biggest problem, Lord Ruthven. After the gunfight in the Symphony Hall, the leader of the vampires continued plotting methods and schemes to rid Night City of the cyber psycho, ruining the reputation of the artistic bunch. The vampires completely cleaned up the remnants of the battle to continue their social events and send yet another set of instructions to the same edge runners that almost fell victim to Lord Ruthven's ambush. A message from Mr. Reinmeyer's representative hits the comms of the runners. Within it is a set of instructions. Go to the disclosed location, wear a specific article of clothing, and order a distinct meal from the person you see. Although initially confused by the random set of instructions, the gang quickly catches on to the cryptic message and gets ready to follow the coordinates. The trek leads them to the university, packed with students enjoying their breaks. Conversations overheard by the runners contain that of concern about the attack at the vampires event, and students echoing the ever-growing complaints of the psychology professor still being radio silent. As they pass the crowd of pupils, they reach the destination of their objective. It's a noodle truck covered in glowing neon lights and holographic pictures of delicious meals. An old person with a greasy, stained apron stands on the other side of the counter. Following the instructions to a T, the cook nods before turning to the steaming bowls of noodles behind them. As the group waits, the intended interaction unfolds. A vampire slowly walks towards the group with his palms showing. The man introduces himself as Renfield, and informs them that his superior has personally invited them to a meeting, as they have pressing matters to discuss. He slowly reaches into his breast pocket, revealing an envelope. He hands it to one of them before taking a slow step back. Everything you need to know is in that letter. Renfield nods to the other vampires that were concealed within the crowd. He, along with them, returned to their original positions, completely disappearing in the sea of university students. The Edgerunners accept the invitation and meet with the Master. Deep within the belly of Symphony Hall, a tall cloaked man stands with the warm glow of a holographic fireplace behind him. He steps away from the light to speak to the group. He talks about Lord Ruthven, about how he came to join the group, and about how he is now the biggest problem they currently face. He gives the runners the location of the cyber psycho and at the same time hands them a long wooden stake. Make haste to the Union Chapel building, and make sure the task is completed. I will ensure that you are compensated fairly for your efforts. He returns to the warm glow of the fireplace. A servant brings him a chalice of red liquid. Happy hunting, he says. A large dilapidated chapel stands tucked in between surrounding buildings on the south side of Night City. Scoping out the area, the Edgerunners search for the building's security, and in doing so, spot a familiar face. The monk that ambushed them in the hall is posted up at the only visible entrance into the facility, backed by two henchmen in similar garb. The cold wind glides between the guards as stray raindrops fall upon their brown robes. Their faces appear emotionless, as if the only thoughts their mind can form are in relation to their new careers as sentient sentries. Right as a cloud of mist exits the mouth of one of the monks, a singular bullet enters their face and flies straight out of the back of their head. A battle that is somewhat of a sequel to the one days prior breaks out. Everyone involved sends bullets back and forth for a few minutes. Rounds are exchanged, blood is spilled. The Edgerunners emerge victorious, but not unscathed. Everyone tends to their wounds and approaches the entrance to the chapel building. A long, human leather carpet stretches down the length of the hall's floor. Rotting corpses sit propped up in chairs, surrounded by red candles. The runners comment on the foul smell and sights that greet them as they venture forth. They follow the carpet to a doorway, leading down a long set of stairs, which they then head down. It's at this moment they meet the very man they came to see. "Witness my supremacy, vermin," a voice bellows through the hall. A bloody battle takes place within the Union Chapel, and even though gunshots pollute the air, anyone outside of the building has no idea that this conflict is taking place. The vampire lord darts around the room and dodges bullet after bullet. The runners duck and weave to not fall victim to the madman's attacks. This could be the final moments for anyone here. But luckily for Night City, Professor Huntver managed to secure that honour. The battle that lasted hours finally concluded. The man that whisked away multiple women over the course of 4 weeks couldn't handle the onslaught thrust upon him by this crafty rescue group. His body lay sprawled out on the floor of the chapel. One of the edge runners finishes dusting themselves off before they step forward. Wooden stake in hand, they plunge it deep into the chest of Lord Ruthven. After killing the vampire lord, the group notices a room tucked away behind the curtains hanging in the far side of the hall. They move toward it and enter, where they locate a large medical pod stuffed with bodies. Upon closer inspection, they see multiple corpses of women, disfigured by botched attempts of body sculpting and cosmetic surgery. Within the bodies lies only one survivor, Lucy Reinmeyer. Days after missing girl Lucy was found, her father George Edward Reinmeyer funded post-mortem surgeries on the women who weren't lucky enough to escape in the same condition as his daughter. The faces of the women were restored to their original appearances, allowing them to be buried in a much more humanizing way. Lucy spent a copious amount of time in therapy and was eventually able to work through her trauma and continue living a long life. The Philharmonic Vampyres' reputation was cleared of any suspicion relating to the crimes committed by the deranged Professor Huntver. The edge runners responsible for her safe return were awarded handsomely for their valiant efforts. And so ends the story of the Philharmonic Vampyres, or at least the quote-unquote canon story. Some more information of what happened to them after the fall of Lord Ruthven can be found in the Neural Emission universe if you check out the links in the description. And thank you so much for watching. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone who showed love in the last video I did, because I had absolutely no idea that it would reach so many people. I am by no means an expert on Cyberpunk lore, but making that video and then reading everyone's comments really sparked an interest in learning more about the tabletop games and the lore behind all of it. I'm still very keen on making more Cyberpunk videos as well as other games, so please stick around. But until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay the hell out of Night City.